All right, as folks are coming in, we'll get started in just a minute. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Orcas in Action Holiday Spectacular with some stories from the front line. I'm Kevin McMenamin, your host with Loss Prevention Magazine, and with me in his not-so-ugly Christmas sweater is Jack Britton. Jack, how are we doing today?
Hey, Kevin. Hey, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I've got my naughty, nice, and I tried t-shirt on today, along with my Santa jacket, which will be coming into big use starting next week. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We've got a couple of great, or shall we say spectacular, sessions that we're going to go through today. As we get started, as usual, the first thing we love to do is to thank our sponsors. Without these guys, it just wouldn't be possible to be able to bring you this type of education. So we appreciate today Genetec and Alto. Genetec Inc. is a technology company with a portfolio that encompasses security, intelligence, and operations. The company's flagship product, Genetec Security Center, is a physical security platform that unifies IP-based video surveillance, access control, automatic license plate recognition, communications, and analytics. For more information about Genetec, visit www.genetec.com. And our other sponsor for today is Alto. Alto is a company that puts people first and provides a different approach to business safety and other disturbances. Their nationwide teams establish partnerships with different stakeholders across the community, including law enforcement, nonprofit organizations, prosecutors, and other civil groups, with the goal of making communities safer. To learn more about Alto, visit their website at www.alto.us. And we want to thank the Loss Prevention Foundation, who's our education partner on these sessions. If you are LPC or LPQ certified, make sure that you keep track of your attendance for today, because you just got 3 CEU credits towards your continuing education. So congratulations on that. And if you're not certified, well, then why the heck not? Because you should be. And you should also be subscribed to Loss Prevention Magazine. So if you're not already subscribed, there's that handy dandy QR code. If you're not fast enough to get out your device right now, that's okay. I'll bring it up again later before we go. But or you can go right to www.losspreventionmedia.com and subscribe today. It is free, F-R-E-E, free. All right, so as we get started today, Jack and I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about a few of our favorite things. There's been an awful lot of naughty this year, and there's been quite a bit of nice as well, with some nice cases and some nice developments as far as legislation goes, as far as partnerships that have developed. And we just wanted to kind of visit on and touch on a couple of those, some of the good things, like the Inform Act passing this year, the legislation that's been proposed that hasn't necessarily passed, like the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act of 2023. Jack, I know we've got the vibrant communities out there that the NDAA is involved with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, first of all, let me comment that Lisa LeBruno and the team at RELA has done a terrific job with this, working with the NDAA, or the National District Attorneys Association. They've jumped in and they're working with, the plan is to work with communities across the country on this Vibrant Communities initiative. And the plan is to go in, work with the retailers. They've been doing a bunch of store visits. Right now, they've kind of targeted 2 markets, Yellow in California, and up in the Seattle market in Washington, King County, up there. So far, the results have been very well received. They've made a lot of progress. Our attorneys' offices are touring with the retailers in their stores, taking a look at what's going on. They're getting a much better feel for the types of problems that we're facing in the retail side of things. Law enforcement's deeply involved in these initiatives, as well as some of our folks on the call today might be able to tell us a little bit more about with their work out there. It's a terrific program, and it's something that is just getting started, but we see a lot of momentum heading into 2024, and we're really hoping that this takes off with the same success that it's shown so far in those two markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Jack, you mentioned law enforcement. A little bit of a shameless plug to throw in here as far as the ORC training that we have available, both at the officer or field officer level, as well as what's releasing very shortly is the detective level courses in ORC. We have scholarships available for these. So folks, if you're listening and you're from law enforcement and you'd like to get your department some access to some free training on organized retail crime, these are courses that were developed in collaboration between CLEAR, the Loss Prevention Foundation, Learn It Media, which is my team, and RELA, the Retail Industry Leaders Association. These courses are fantastic, and we've got retailers who put up some money towards scholarships. So we've got plenty of scholarships to hand out. So if your department is interested, or folks, if you're in retail and you're working with some of these law enforcement partners and we can help them get this education through their department, please feel free to have them reach out to me directly, and I will make sure that we connect them with these scholarships.
Yeah, Kevin, I think it's important to mention there too that these programs were made in direct cooperation with both subject matter experts on the law enforcement and the retail side of things. We've also had some input from district attorneys and so forth to really help us put together a quality education program that should really be beneficial to the officers out there that are going to be, or if they're not already, dealing with this type of investigation on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we do have a district attorney version that we're going to be releasing in the upcoming months. We're working with both RELA, and then RELA has brought in the NDAA on this as well. So
Right.
Definitely something that we'll tell you more about as those become available. I think some of the other things that you know, we definitely appreciate. There was some exceptional support this year from HSI. Cannot call them out enough and give them a huge kudos for all of the effort and participation that they've put through at so many conferences and with so many investigations. They've got some real quality people there that have been fantastic. We saw record attendance in CLEAR this year, plus record attendance at a lot of the ORCA conferences as well across the U.S. Jack, what would be one of your favorite ORC positives from this past year?
As far as the conference is concerned, I really enjoyed the one in Indiana this year. That one turned out really well. I think the guys did a terrific job there putting that together, and gals. As always, the one in Chicago is always a fan favorite, and the one in Georgia has always been a great show, and they did another terrific job again this year. But that's just touching the surface. We could go on all day. Of course, California, there was one up in Wisconsin. There was some really good programs that took place this year. Albuquerque, New Mexico, they're really building that ORCA up down there, and they're doing a terrific job as well. I'm sure I'm leaving 100 of them out, but I really think that people are stepping up to the plate, and they're doing a terrific job putting these programs together.
Let me throw it to our speakers today. We haven't really introduced them yet, but we'll get to that as we get to their sessions. But Brian, what was your favorite positive in ORC this year?
Yeah, I'd say another kudos out to HSI. I'm currently working on another large events with them that'll culminate here next week. That's number one. And number two, I had the honor of partaking in the Northwest Grocers Association. They seem like they're making some good legislative efforts here in Washington State. I don't know the details, but I know they're going to try to make our laws a little bit better along the ORC lines. And what I was asked to do is come up with some ideas on how we could tweak the laws a little bit to maybe have some more teeth in our laws as they pertain to ORCs and boosters and things like that. So that's, at least we're getting that moving, which is good. So
That's great.
Brian,
That's
you'd
great.
also mentioned something about, well, we talked a little bit about recidivism up there and how that seems to be dropping based on some of the things.
yeah, I don't want to, I'm not, yeah. So Scott Lindsay, he's the Seattle assistant city attorney. He started something called the high utilizer list, and and I don't want to plagiarize what he had, but it's basically a system where they identify, I think it was a top 300 worst ORC offenders, not ORC, yeah, ORC offenders, and in working with conjunction with Seattle Jail, from this point forward, if one of those high utilizer suspects gets arrested, they automatically get booked into a Seattle jail and do actual real jail time. Versus before, they weren't even getting booked. Some of these jails up here in King County for these types of crimes, they just weren't simply accepting people on theft charges or ORC charges. So Scott Lindsay created this high utilizer list. It's gotten really good results, the recidivism rate. And again, I don't want to plagiarize, or I just heard a quick spiel a couple of weeks ago at a ORCA meeting, but it seems like it's really working. The recidivism rate has gone way down on these lists. So it's, like I said, it's a really good start. So
I'm sure they don't mind if you plagiarize a little bit there, Brian.
okay.
Jake, how about you guys? Jake, Reg, what was your what's one of your highlight ORC positives from this past year?
Yeah, I'd definitely say obviously the ORC ORCA conferences are spiking up all over the country. I think what we're starting to see as well is the blend or the integration of ORC into other conferences, whether it's robbery, fraud, or other conferences that are kind of specialized in another area. We're starting to see law enforcement is recognizing that ORC has a direct nexus to these other crimes. So I think the integration and the cross networking has been huge in 23.
I would say, and you guys touched on it, the willingness, the progress we've made with police chiefs and sheriffs around the country and their willingness to throw payroll and bodies at these ORC task forces at the local, county, state, and even federal levels has been phenomenal. Watching that grow over the last 18 months. We're out here in Vegas working cases today with our new task force here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And seeing these cops learn our world and what we do out there and how much better they become for it is a pleasure to participate in. Now, we're talking about favorites. I think we do have a lot of ground to still make up with prosecutors in a lot of areas, but we're getting law enforcement right there with us on board. So that's fabulous. And then the other thing, being the California guy in the room, the money's real. The governor threw what felt like an unrealistic amount of money out to combat ORC, and the agencies that I'm involved with in California, they're getting that money, they're spending that money. It's going towards great resources, pole cameras, surveillance vehicles, LPR cameras, staffing, all kinds of different things that they're now able in these cities that got those grants to help us combat ORC. So that's phenomenal.
You guys are pulling some huge cases out of there too, Ryan. There was just one, I think it was yesterday or the day before, another big case that came out of Southern Cal.
Yep.
Yeah, and those task forces, man, we've got between California, Florida, Illinois, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Washington, man, we've got those popping up all over the place, and they're really starting to take the initiative of applying. We've seen task forces in plenty of other areas, from collaborating on drug issues, or even when there's robbery and some of those other issues. But to see them now coming together as ORC has been fantastic. You know, you mentioned the we were talking about various different orcas too, and Jack and I thought we'd share a map for everyone to see. I think when we did this about 3 years ago, close to, well, at least a third of this, right, Jack? At least a third, if
Yeah.
not close to a half, would have not been filled in, and because they weren't covered by organized retail crime associations. And with all the different orcas that have popped up over the last couple of years, we've seen this map fill in. This is not a Verizon or AT&T map. This is an ORCA map, and we have coverage, right? We have coverage across the U.S. Just a couple of states that I think are still kind of, coming along though. We hear that there's a couple of initiatives that they're trying to work into some of those too. So, but we've got some serious coverage here, Jack.
Yeah, we do. And we've also had a lot of retailers that have really stepped up to the plate. I'm going to call out Walgreens as one, where Steve and the team over there have really taken strides towards helping build some of these orcas, especially in communities where we don't have them. We've got Lama Orca down in the Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama market down there that's really taken off. We've got some up in the North Midwest. Now we just got to get Wyoming and North Dakota on the table out there, guys. So come on, let's see what we can do to fill in that thing and make it all orange.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see them all working together too. Not only sharing information, but working together to help stand these different orcas up. The guys that have been doing it are helping the new guys that want to start it. We keep hearing over and over again the success stories that are coming out of these groups. And we're about to hear a few more. We've got a couple of spectacular cases to cover as we go into the next two sections here. So let's start. Jack, why don't you introduce Brian? We've already tapped into them, but let's formally introduce the folks on the sessions today, starting with Brian.
Okay. Leading us off today, we have Brian Jordan, who's a police officer and a member of the special enforcement team with Renton Police Department up in the Washington State market. He's been around for a long time. I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about yourself, Brian. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you go about it. He's a veteran. He's worked some terrific cases, and he's going to tell us about one that he's worked today.
Sure. First of all, thanks LP Magazine for having me on. I really appreciate it. Like Jack said, my name is Detective Brian Jordan. I'm a member of a special enforcement team here with the city of Renton. The special enforcement team is comprised of, it should be comprised of six detectives and a supervisor. Right now, we're a little short-staffed. We have 2 narcotics detectives in my unit, a narcotics canine. The canine handler also does commercial sex abuse of a minor cases, human trafficking cases, and some other things. I do more of the PROACT stuff. I do organized retail crime. I do burglary series, robbery series, motor vehicle theft series, things of that nature. What our team does, though, is we're not typical detectives in the sense that we just file cases. We spend probably 85% of our time in the field performing surveillance on our targets. Our goal is to develop additional felony charges on our targets to keep them in jail longer. We target repeat offenders, high profile repeat offenders. Up here in King County, I'm not sure how it is out there, but up here in King County, for my niche, they're really light on organized retail crime. So when it comes down to developing charges, the more you have, the more you can stack on these folks, the better, the longer time they're going to see. So that's kind of the spirit of it. I've been a police officer for over 21 years. I started my career off with the New York City Police Department. Came out here in 2006. My wife's from out here. She wasn't digging the East Coast. I can't blame her. Sorry, Kevin. And so, yeah, we came out here in 2006. I've been with Renton since. I was on our fugitive apprehension team for a while. They work hand in hand with our group. I was on SWAT for six years or so. And so, but yeah, getting to ORC, I've been really involved with ORC the last 2-3 years. And how I came into that was really by working with my retail partners. And I can't say enough about them. They're, as we all are here on law enforcement, those of us who are on here, you know, in law enforcement know that we have multiple cases going on at once. And so the great thing about working with organized retail crime investigators, they can be your eyes and ears when you're not there. So the case I'm going to talk about today is exactly how I came to find out about it, was through my retail partners. So I'm just going to jump in there, Jack. Is that okay? And start sharing my screen. Okay.
It's all yours.
Okay. Let me know. Is that working? Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. It's not working.
There we go.
There we go.
How about now? Okay. So,
There we
There
go.
it is.
Got it.
okay. Okay. And sorry for seeing the side of my head. My video camera is here and my notes are over here. So yeah, this is a case study. As you can see, all roads lead to Roman. It's a kind of a pun there, but you'll see why. Sorry, everybody. I'm not really good at this. Okay, let's try this. Okay. So in early 2023, just earlier this year, I became aware of a prolific stolen fencing operation. This guy's name is actually Roman. And the type of fence, it was kind of unique for me. I was used to the brick and mortar types, or the fences that meet up in parking lots and things of that nature. This was unique in the sense that this guy was actually operating out of his house. And so I'll get into how that looked here in a sec. But total case impact over, you know, he's been doing it since 2018, over $7 million. So how did I learn of him? Again, I just mentioned it. Retail partners, they were huge. And then patrol officer and custody interviews of boosters, not just here in Renton, but throughout the area. Working again with my retail partners. Jeremy Gerard of Target ORC has been great. These boosters really like to steal from them. And he instructed his folks to kind of drill down and find out where they were fencing the stuff. And the common name they were throwing out was this guy named Roman. So I kind of learned what was going on there and some of his techniques, how Roman worked. And what it was like to boost him. And then based on that, our retail partners were able to look into his eBay activity and see a lot of, the same things that people were boosting were the same things that he was posting on his eBay sites. And so they were able to find out his phone name, his address, etc. I end up doing warrants into eBay as well and finding out the same stuff. So but that's really how we identified him. So I mentioned the in custody interviews. This is a screenshot of one of them. This particular person really went in detail on how Roman worked. He threw out, he knew him as Rome. He had a good phone number for him, which I was able to link back to Roman. But he basically said where this guy lived, which we already knew about at that point. But he, said the actual city, which was Federal Ways here in South King County. Like I said, he provided a phone number and an actual address. And so the important thing is what I liked is how Roman worked. And so this ended up getting corroborated by a number of boosters and eventually CI. But what this guy said is basically Roman had people pull into his garage. Once the booster was inside the garage, he'd have the booster lay everything out. Roman would get out an eBay scanner app and basically just start scanning all the stolen property. How Roman paid these people is he would give them if it was under $2,000, he'd give them 35% of the lowest eBay price, which in my experience, 35% is actually pretty good. My experience, the going rate is like 10 to 15%. So if it was over $2,000, Roman would give them 40%. So,
hey, Brian,
yes,
I'm going to just interrupt you for 1 second. I think your screen share is working off your second monitor.
Okay.
So I don't know if you go down and try hitting the either hitting the play, because we're seeing the slideshow piece. We're not
I'm
seeing
I'm,
the
I'm
video.
sorry.
That's
Okay. What do I need to do then?
Try hitting the play button down below. See if that gives you an option. Yeah, down on that. Yeah, try down there.
Not seeing a play button. Okay. Oh wait. Here's the problem. I got three screens going. So
Yeah,
hold
either
on.
that, or if you want to, the one that has the slide, slide with the other slides on the side. If you want to just click on each one of those as you go through, that'll bring it up for the rest of us. We can see a big slide in the middle, but we're on the title screen still.
Oh,
Brian, you
okay.
can drag the presentation from the one screen to the other as well, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And so, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here. How about that?
All right, now
Hold
we
on.
got now we got the Zoom. Now we're on monitor number 2.
Sorry, everybody.
It's the
Okay,
fun of
let me
live webinars.
Yeah,
Let me-
Great.
this is
let
where
me-
it works, right?
let me just let me try that. That's not working.
There we go. Just hit those slide buttons. I think that works just fine, Brian. If you
Okay.
just hit the,
How about nope, no?
yeah, we're on slide 5 now. We can see it.
Okay, sorry, everybody. I'm not very
That's all right.
proficient with this.
No,
So
No,
don't
it's
worry
okay.
about it.
okay,
So just work it
so
from that.
you're gonna look at the side of my face because the where I'm showing you guys is on my main screen. So I totally apologize for the side of my
We're
face.
good with that.
No, you're working fine. It works fine.
Okay, cool. Where was I? So yeah, so this one booster ended up being honest about, we were able to corroborate everything that he said. Fast forward to March of 2023. Subject was stopped at our Target store. A heads up patrol officer that it actually come into our group here pretty soon gave me a call. This person ended up driving a stolen vehicle and then stealing a whole bunch of stuff at our Target. The one great thing about this person, she was totally transparent. She's been arrested multiple times, and I knew of her prior to this patrol officer actually arresting her. She owns every single bit of what she does. She looks at boosting as a job. She boosts every day. She's a fentanyl addict. She boosts to get by, and she 100% owns it. That day, like I said, she drove a stolen car, and she had probably stolen a couple grand worth of stuff. In her in custody interview, she full on spilled the beans about Roman, and so she was again able to corroborate pretty much word for word that male that was in custody at the Issaquah Target told ORC investigator there. She told this patrol officer. So same exact thing. She pulled into the garage, the whole eBay scanning app thing. What ended up going on was I was able to work with Target and the victim of the stolen car. And in consideration of her working, she basically, they were willing to forego charging her. So she became a confidential informant, which is why her face is blurred out there. She's super jaded. She, like most CIs are, she's multiple felony charges. Multiple felony convictions for ORC. Not the typical CI you'd like to have, but I work with what I was given, right? So we end up doing meeting her, signing her up, which another great thing about our retail partners, they provided whatever I wanted to sell back into Roman. So what Roman liked, according to her, were, and you could see on his eBay site, but circuit breakers, allergy meds, any over-the-counter stuff, ink, things of that nature. So again, shout out to our, to my retail partners. They gave me everything I need to give to her who she ended up selling to Roman. So the guys was, these things were stolen. She had 2 orders. She typically did this. One order was for her for whatever she boosted. And then there was a second order for her buddy. And the buddy was eventually going to become a UC officer. And you'll see what happened here. It didn't quite work out. But so we did 3 controlled sales. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. These are some of the other repeated connected boosters that we were able to tie into Roman's fence, just pretty much target pushouts. But they stole from Staples everywhere, so they weren't very picky as long as they were the product that Roman liked. As far as Roman's online marketplaces, so he had 5 different accounts, 2 of which were in his wife's name, 3 of which were in his. But over the 5 different accounts, since 2018, he had sold over 170,000 items. It gives you a kind of an idea of the breadth of his actual operations. So. Obviously, writing search warrants into eBay is super important. I was able to glean a lot of different information from there. And but I'm just going to roll through a few slides here to give you exact types of things. And you can see kind of runs the gamut. These are all screenshots, and you can see the upper left, the 86,000 items sold, 46,000 items sold, 33,000 items sold. That's just 3 of the 5. And just some more examples of what he likes to sell. So. And some more of that. So based on we signed her up. We started doing surveillance on Roman. And again, ORC investigators did the same. Roman's house was awfully hard to watch. So you'll see here on the bottom, the screen to the right, the snip to the right. You'll see here, it's off a very busy road, really nowhere to sit. I ended up befriending the people across the street who were nice enough to let me sit in their driveway. And we were able to see Roman come and go. You'll see here the red circle is the garage. If you go over to the snippet to the right, the picture to the right, I'm sorry, to the left, you'll see the actual garage, what it looked like from the street view. And so basically boosters like I said, would just pull right in. He'd open the garage door. Multiple boosters said that he had a video camera posted on front, and he was very careful to look around and not make sure any neighbors were looking. But as you can tell, he didn't really have anything to worry about. So point being, it was a really good, I'm not sure if he meant to do this. He ended up renting this house, but it was in an ideal location to run a fence because, like I said, it was super hard to watch him. We did, like I said, some surveillance on him. This is actually from some of the retail crime investigators, these photos. Watch him go to multiple shipping locations. You can see the huge bags on the far right photo. These are all ready to go. They're all shipped out to various people across the country. This is some stuff when we did surveillance on him. He went to UPS store, FedEx, post office. I didn't know that a Honda Accord could hold so much stuff. Just when you think he was done, he ended up pulling up more stuff. But you'll see he was really busy. We did multiple surveillance ops on him, and every time he shipped out pretty much every day. So fast forward to June. Actually, let me go back. So as far as the CI goes, we ended up doing 3 controlled sales into her. She was really hard to deal with. She was really addicted to fentanyl. I mean, really, really bad. She ended up getting arrested and for some pretty serious stuff. And so obviously I had to fire her. I mean, she's in jail. I ended up firing her. So I was kind of at a crossroads with this because I had his phone number. I had taken some pictures of some of the front end product that the retailer provided me, and I decided to cold shot him. I sent him a pitch. I'm sorry, a picture, and I said, "Hey, I'm friends with so and so." She said to give you a shot, and I heard nothing from Roman. So he was pretty guarded. So at that point, I was kind of at a crossroads. I didn't have anyone into him. All the stuff I want to mention, all the stuff that we sold him, I marked up. That's important to do. What he did all stock photos. So if you wanted, the goal in these operations is obviously to buy the stuff you sell the fence back. That made it awfully hard because you can't look on his eBay sites and say, hey, oh, there's the, there's a circuit breaker that I marked up. I'm going to buy that back from him. He just did all stock photos. So that was a challenge. And I think I ended up, I don't know why. I'm sure he did it because I ended up finding out it was just him and his wife running this operation. And so it was easy just to find a stock photo and just throw it up on eBay versus taking pictures of every single item. The current fence I'm working, this guy actually has 5 different females working for him. And he does take actual photos of each product. So we were able to buy some stuff back in this current fence. So, but Roman, that was like a definite challenge. So know that going into your next next time you do a fence, what are you going to do with that? And then I was at a crossroads. I said, what am I going to do to try to get into them? Fast forward to June of 2023, just this past June. One of my ORC investigators, Brian Phillips from Rite Aid that I work with, told me about this guy. You'll see the slide here. This guy was super bold. He would walk into these pharmacies and literally hop the counter and just start stealing as much liquor as he could. Never was able to identify him. In response to this, Rite Aid decided to deploy 3SI trackers just at random locations in and amongst their product that he liked to steal. We got lucky in late June. He actually hit Shoreline. Rite Aid Shoreline's a town just north of Seattle here. That actually had the 3SI tracker in it. It activated, and sure as you know what, it tracked directly to. He did make a stop to get gas, and I think he did another boost at another location. But after that, he went directly to Roman's garage. Not just like the house, but you can see the tracker inside the garage, which was great for the warrant that I was going to get. What's odd, and I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not sure it really matters, but the tracker only stayed 12 minutes inside the garage. I'm not sure if maybe Roman didn't want all the product, or the guy found the tracker and left, or maybe Roman found the tracker and decided to go do some of that. I'm not quite sure. A couple days, these are some trackers, examples, like I said, 3SI, and then what the guy stole. We were able to see a couple days later, Roman post the exact stuff that was stolen during that Shoreline incident up on Roman's eBay site. So based on that, I was able to apply and I secured a search warrant for his house. So the search warrant day, it was crazy. I had another detective here that is part of investigation division. He's done property crime for 35 years, and he's like, this is the most stolen stuff I've ever seen. So this kind of gives you an idea. Just to give you a setup on how Roman's house, what it looked like. It was a 1-level house with a walkout basement. So all in all, probably both levels close to 2,800 square feet. The main level was all the bedrooms, living room, kitchen. The bedrooms all housed big bulkier items. So there was stolen, power tools, printers, just really bulky stuff. They had 2 small kids, probably 18 months old. Their room, aside from the crib, was full of stolen items. And then in the living room was like a more or less like a processing center. All those same bags that we saw on surveillance. There was huge, again, postal bags full of ready to be shipped out stuff. We opened those up, all the same stuff that he had on his eBay sites. What was interesting is The return labels on the majority of these came back to a fictitious person. So to me, that goes to knowledge. Obviously, in any of these cases, you have to prove knowledge, at least here in Washington State, that the person that's selling this stuff knew that it was stolen. And so the fact that he had a bogus name on the return label, to me, went to knowledge, just to kind of thwart law enforcement efforts. So the person was just a completely fictitious person. So, but yeah, we had just the whole living room was full of this prepackaged stuff ready to ship out in these bags. Then if you go down, it's the upper left photo here, that's the stairs to going upstairs. And so as you can see, when you walk down the stairs, you couldn't even walk. There was literally rat trails full of stuff. And like I said, since it was him and his wife, it wasn't organized anyway. He had the ink kind of organized in some way, but as you can tell, it was wall-to-wall stuff. What I want to point out here is that you'll see in some of these photos, like middle, bottom, middle, and if you look at other ones, bottom left, you'll see all of the spider wrapping still contained on all the similar products. So again, that goes to knowledge. You'll see these big black garbage bags. What was kind of interesting with that is that my CI, she goes, all the boosters, just to hide the product, they all bring all their stolen stuff in these big black garbage bags. So knowing that and then seeing that, it was super useful. But then in and amongst this stuff were 5-gallon buckets full of water. And then in the 5-gallon buckets were a lot of these spider wraps dunked into the water. I would imagine to short out any electronics so the alarms wouldn't go off. And then you'll see that here. You'll see the theft deterrent labels on the bottom right. Those were peeled off and strewn around the basement. And then upper right, you'll see garbage bags full of the plastic keepers that a lot of retailers like to put highly valuable stuff in. There were spider wrap alarms in those Target bags right there. Just the term we used, obvious and apparent, is what our King County prosecutor likes to use, the ORC prosecutor that I work with, that this stuff was stolen. So I can't tell you how many times I wrote obvious and apparent. But yeah, it kind of gives you a breath what's going on. It ended up taking us 4 of the biggest U-Hauls we can rent to get all the product out. This is this photo. Again, what was great about the retailers that day, they worked hand in hand with us. It was a long day. It took 10+ hours to get all the stuff out. They end up bringing it to a location that they end up inventorying, and that's what these photos are. And so, yeah, just a tremendous amount of stuff. Roman was on scene. He was taken into custody for trafficking in the first degree. His wife was there too. She admitted to knowing that what they were doing. She wasn't arrested because they had, like I mentioned, 2 small kids, and so she was there. But Roman was booked. I went down to the jail, and this slide just kind of gives you a summary of what we talked about. I Mirandized him. He agreed to give an audio video recording. He was really, I just broke down the case for him. I really didn't want to play. I felt like I had, and I do have, a very strong case against. So I wasn't so much the knowledge component. I thought I proved, and so I want to know how his operation worked, if he was in it, if there was a bigger picture here, or was he just a one-off guy? And so he ended up, owning the entire thing, but he expressed concern for his wife and his kids, and so he was willing to make a deal. To basically, I didn't make any guarantees, but he was basically willing to take ownership of what he was doing if we were going to charge his wife. So he did, like I said, in the third one down, criminal network and operations. He basically learned this. The fence I'm working now with HSI, Roman was like an intern at, more or less back in 2018. Under a different person. The person he worked under is now operating another fence south of here, which I'll probably target here in the coming months. but he basically told me like, hey, he's from Moldova. He basically said, hey, I came over here and I was making $400 a day, pretty much doing all the online posting and all the packaging for this guy. And he thought to himself, well, why can't I do this for myself? And so he started, he took that same business template and basically started off on his own. And I'll get to kind of some of this brick and mortar stuff that he first started here. We found Roman was really good at keeping taxes. He had a CPA prepare his taxes, and he took full ownership of his eBay operations on his taxes. So from 2019, I had his 2019 to 2022 full tax records, and so on there he calls out one of his eBay accounts, BP Trading, and that was one of the 5 accounts that he used. And you could see, really interesting, from 2018 to 2022, just the amount of money he was making more and more and more. Last year in 2022, he made 1.9 million. The one discrepancy I found is that he said he paid 1.5 million for all the goods, which if it's stolen, if he's paying 35% of 2 mil, doesn't add up to 1.5. So I have the IRS looking at that, but it was really eye-opening for me to see a guy knowingly do illegal stuff, but then on his taxes, it looks on it's all in line. So it kind of gives you an idea of their mindset. This next slide is this is one of the fences he was involved in prior. He actually, like I said, he left and he opened up this brick and mortar location here back in 2019. He said it was just the rent was too much, and the word wasn't out yet. He said that what he was doing, so he ended up renting the house where we ended up doing the warrant out, and ended up just doing it from his house. And he was able to kind of put the word out. And he initially met people in parking lots and stuff like that, but then once the word got out, he moved his operations to the case. To his house. So wrapping up, summary of the case, we recovered, like I mentioned, over $1.7 million in stolen property. I will say that a lot of that wasn't accounted for, so I'd probably say it's close to 2. What ended up happening when, as you guys all know, when retailers inventory stuff, the inventory company are given SKUs, and so a lot of the stolen stuff didn't. I think some of the retailers didn't give their SKUs, so there was probably $300,000 worth of stuff that wasn't actually identified. But we dismantled one of the most prolific fences here in South King County. I mean, everybody was using Roman. One of the things that I'll go over real quick in the coming slides. I was able to freeze over $300,000 in cash. It's still frozen. I haven't seized it, and I'll get to that as to why. But like I mentioned, the retail partners were great in this. This kind of it was neat to see CVS, ORC people, Home Depot, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Target, Lowe's, all work hand in hand. They to get all this stuff cleaned out. It was I didn't imagine that going into this. It was really neat. It was really neat to see. So going over to his eBay stuff, like I mentioned, he had over $5 million in sales in a little over 3 years. eBay was shut down all the accounts now, and he's not able to sell on eBay, him or his wife. So I'll go over into like a lessons learned. I know I'm running short on time, but Roman, his wife is a Filipino national. She's a Filipino citizen. Like I said, he's from Moldova. This is just stuff that calling out stuff for myself, but maybe I can pass some stuff along to you all when you do your own investigation. So here in King County, if you have no criminal history, it really doesn't matter what you do. If you don't, you're pretty much going to get out of jail pretty quick. especially for ORC. And so, you know, he was released from jail. In the days following his release, he was talking to me. He wanted to work, and you know, he wanted to work a deal for him and his wife, blah blah. And then he went dark. I end up, like I said, I was working with HSI, and they kind of knew of Roman too. So they looked into him, and I found out that him and his wife, kids, they're pretty much extended family here in the States, flew back to the Philippines. And he has not returned. So it's hard to convict someone when they're actually out of the country. So federal partners, like I said, I'm working with HSI on the fence now, but in this case, HSI they're able to tell me when he returns to the country. You know, HSI and our federal partners are great. A lot of these folks are not from here; they're from overseas, and they can leave the States fairly easily. I contacted IRS, like I mentioned, with his tax records. They were really great and looking into the money laundering aspect of the case. Seizing assets, like I mentioned, we froze over $300,000 in his accounts. But in Washington State, I froze over $300,000 in his accounts. Here in Washington State, I can't seize it. I physically take ownership of that money until there's a conviction. You can't convict someone, like I said, if they're out of the country. So basically this stuff is frozen forever until he comes back. So just know what your seizure laws are. Make sure you know your state's laws. Washington State, like I said, only the cities or county prosecutor or the attorney general office are only the ones who can sign off on seizing assets under the Anti-Money Laundering Act. So prior to a conviction, if it doesn't meet the AML guidelines, then here in Washington State, at least, you can't seize the actual assets. So other lessons learned, most of you know this, I'm sure, but CIs are a pain. I had to, like I mentioned, fire my CI before I was able to introduce my UC. I got lucky because we were able to track the stolen goods to Roman's house. But just some, if you do, just be patient, stay vigilant, keep trying to get other CIs in the defense. I've listed some ways to do this. Using your retail partners and like patrol officers to develop more CIs based on post arrest interviews. Those are really, really good. A lot of these people, they're sick because they're fentanyl addicts or they're addicts in general. They don't want to get dope sick, so they don't want to go to jail. So they want to work with you. The key is to get them signed up and do a sale right then and there, because if you let them go and say, oh, okay, give me a call, you're never going to hear from them ever again. Doing surveillance on boosters. So I've had some success with this. So fences, and you're watching people come in and boost, and then you follow them away and you watch them boost again, and then you stop them and you arrest them, and the same sort of stuff. You get them signed up then and there, and then you throw them right back into the fence, and you get a good sale that way. I mentioned the cold shot. That didn't work for me, but it may work for someone else. If people are really apt, some of these fencers are really apt just to make money, and they don't care who it's from. Just make up a name where, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so. Here's a picture of some stolen stuff. Like, you want to meet up. That didn't work for me, but you never know. As far as financials go, it's imperative. I'm sure everyone knows this, but know where your fencer banks. That way you can have his assets frozen the day of the search warrant. I've run into a few times where I wasn't able to glean who they bank with, and I got lucky on a few of them where I was able to freeze them in the days after the warrant where they weren't able to withdraw. But going into it, it's always a really good idea to have the accounts frozen the day of the warrant. So have your warrants prepped. And then finally, I mentioned partnerships. Just work with your retail partners. I can't tell you enough how great, and it's like working with like another cop. It's really been great. They also have a lot of money, and they're able to provide a lot of different things that we just have to go through like the bureaucratic tape to get, where a lot of these retailers just have. Like I mentioned, they were able to rent the U-Hauls, document when you sell. I went over that. I won't go into that, but just be creative. I was able to take, we have a laser printer here. I was able to throw QR codes. So some of the Nicorette boxes I did, the laser printer I have, you can make up QR codes. So I did like, I did Nicorette.com and just literally etched the QR code into the package. So if the bad guy were to scan it, it would just come up to like the Nicorette site. But when he sells that stuff on his eBay site, I'm able to identify, hey, no other Nicorette products has that QR code. I know that's the one that I sold him. So just try to get creative. That's just one example. But yeah, you got to mark your stuff up. And in a perfect world, ideally your prosecutor is going to want you to buy some of that stuff back, so you have that full cycle. And then finally, you gotta get to know your prosecutor. Sorry. So just like your retail and federal partnerships, I work hand in hand with my ORC prosecutor. I call her before I even delve into a case, and I know now what she wants, but like each fence is a little bit different. Just lay the whole case out for them, and then they'll give you the guidelines on what they want to see. So let's see. Okay, yeah, one of the things I'm running into now is that we never, like I mentioned, never completed the cycle. So I never bought anything back from Roman. But in my opinion, based on everything you've seen, everything I've seen, I think there's obviously knowledge that Roman knew that the items that he was selling were stolen. And so that's about it. I appreciate your time. If you guys have any questions, there's my contact info. I'm more than happy to take phone calls or emails, however way you want to communicate with me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So thanks again for your time. Thanks, LP Magazine, and I hope you guys learned something.
Oh, that was great, Brian. Thank you so much. What a great case too. I'm going to ask if folks have questions for you, they can put them in the Q&A section. And then Brian, if you can hang and you can probably answer those
Sure.
while Jake and his team are moving through the next section.
Sure.
And then we make sure we cover off on any questions that are there, and any that you don't get to before you have to leave, we can make sure we get to you to answer, and then farm back out to folks too.
Okay. I gotta stop sharing now. Okay.
Nice job, Brian.
Nice job.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you.
All righty. So we're gonna move those questions into the QA. If you have any questions for Brian, you had some great tips there, and I love the QR code piece. That was very creative.
Yeah. Thanks.
That was one I think I've only heard once before, so that's good stuff. All righty. Let's move forward into our next presentation here. Jack, you want to introduce our next set of speakers?
Absolutely. We've got some veterans on this particular group, folks that most of us already know. We have Jake Crank, who's with the Major Crime Investigations team at Walgreens. We have Ryan Purrier, who's a regional manager for organized retail crime and corporate investigations with CVS. And we have Ray Spencer, who's a regional manager of organized retail crime and corporate investigations at CVS Health. Ray, I wanted to start with you here. Can you just, you were previously a law enforcement officer, and you're just coming into this side. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just retired about little over a year ago. I spent 25 years in law enforcement, retired from Las Vegas Metro. Spent the majority of my career in sexual assault, internet crimes, and the last 5 years in homicide here in Las Vegas. So kind of drinking water through a fire hose in the ORC world. I had no idea a lot of this existed until I came on board here and got to work with Ryan and Jake, but they've kind of taken me under their wing and learning every day out here in Vegas.
Been the biggest adjustment for you so far?
The work is the work, right? Doing an investigation, it's an investigation. You have to be able to set your ego aside and realize that you might have been in, 25 years doing one thing, but when you're working in a world that you're not familiar with the guys that have a lot of knowledge in the retail side, you just have to sit back, listen, and kind of take it all in. And that's the biggest thing I can tell you You know, the difference in the retail world, it's eye-opening all the time. And they'll tell you, it's like, you know, we hit a house down in Phoenix probably 3 months ago, and $1.1 million of product in a guy's 2-bedroom apartment. Couldn't believe it. You know, things that you would, you know, my world was totally different from what I'm working now. When, you know, you go from dead bodies and murders to ORC, there's a big learning curve in that sense.
Jake, Ryan, can you just real quickly here give everyone a reacquaintance of who you guys are and what you do?
Yeah, again, Ryan Purrier, and you covered it, Jack, CVS Health, organized retail crime. Believe it or not, Jack, it's been 4 years now with CVS. It has gone by so quickly. I tell you what, there's never a shortage of work or things to do, so you lose track of time very, very quickly. Again, I've been on the retail side now for over 20 years. I've done all kinds of different investigative work in retail for different retailers, and found my home here with Ben's team at CVS, and could not be happier. Piggyback off of what Ray was talking about, it's been a pleasure being able to mentor Ray on this side of the business. We've all had experiences where former law enforcement has come into the business, and sometimes that can be a very tough adjustment, but Ray really did leave it at the door. We all know his pedigree and his resume, but he left it at the door, and what he keyed in on is the work is the work. Investigations is investigations. Doesn't matter what the crime is. If you're somebody who loves and has a passion for putting the puzzle pieces together, you can be successful in this. And that's everything we're seeing in Ray. That's what he's bringing to the table.
Jake?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Jack, and Kevin. My name is Jake Crank. I'm the Major Crimes Investigations Manager for Walgreens. I cover the Southwest. My background's all retail, specializing in ORC investigations.
So we have a little bit of a different type of case here that we're working on, and we're going to tell the audience about today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's different in a couple of different ways, but it's very traditional as well. And I think I'm gonna probably go through the bulk of this, and these guys will jump in where they need to. But when you say a different type of case, those that have been in the business for a long time can remember a time when test strips, diabetic test strips and supplies were really the pinnacle of organized retail crime activity. It was really what everybody went after, because the price associated, the cost is so great. And that, through merchandise protection and focus, that had kind of fallen by the wayside, and suspects had moved on to other types of products within that OTC category. What we're seeing is test strips are back. There's a huge demand. You pay attention to the street corners, the signs are back up on the street corners. People want to buy them, and they will buy them from, whether it's stolen property from retail, whether it's some sort of insurance, Medicare scam, something like that. The resale market has definitely exploded around test strips, and this is 100% solely a diabetic test strip and diabetic supply fencing operation that we're ultimately led to. So I'll jump into it. So this case takes us back to, well, before I get there, so I just want to hit on 3 key points that we'll touch on, and that will get us through pretty much the whole thing. First and foremost was the collaboration amongst the retailers on this case was tremendous. And those of us out here in the West that work together all the time, we talk all the time. We're constantly sharing what activity we're seeing, what we're working on. We're asking for help from our partners within the industry. And we work very well together. But on this case, it really was critical that everyone involved in the case brought some piece of critical information that helped us get to the end point on this. The second key point that we'll talk about is going to be the law enforcement collaboration. As you guys are aware, but not everybody on the call, we literally, from our end, we had to coordinate law enforcement in 5 different states on this case. This was not a federal case. All the charges related to it are going to be state level charges. And we had to do a lot of introduction, conference calls, things of that nature amongst all these different local, county, and state agencies in order to make sure that they were sharing the proper information, as well as that we were getting appropriate charges in each one of these states. And then the last thing is just from an ORC standpoint, from investigating an ORC, is the willingness and ability to go where the investigation takes you and be able to be there when the investigation takes you there, right? That's how we close these cases. We all know that crooks do not operate on our schedule, right? They don't have a copy of our calendar. They don't care when we're off, when we're on vacation, when we're in meetings or conferences, they're out doing their thing. And you have to have a willingness to follow that activity where it takes you. So back into the case, back in December of 2022, CBS, I actually was getting store reporting out of Arizona, really rural areas in Arizona from, between Phoenix and Lake Havasu, of some very blatant booster activity where, talking large shopping bags being filled with diabetic test strips and other supplies related to that piece of our business. Started tracking those reports coming in because it was unique, something again that, like I said, we hadn't been seeing for a long time. In conversations with some of our industry peers, Jake and I probably talk every day, talking about this activity and what they were seeing, as well as Walmart. Tom Ross down at Walmart, who covers Phoenix. What we learned is this group of boosters that was hitting down in Arizona was doing the same thing at Walmart and doing the same thing at Walgreens that we were seeing at CVS. So at that point, we had a large dollar amount of thefts that had occurred in the stores just in Arizona. And we all started collaborating on what we had, what pictures we had, what vehicles we had, things of that nature. Started working open source, trying to identify who these boosters were. Ultimately, and I think Jake really broke it open through social media, and that we were able to identify one of the boosters and trace him back right here to Las Vegas, Nevada. That obviously got us closer. The vehicles, what we found out from that is they were always rental cars. We were able to identify the branch that they were picking the cars up at, able to do some surveillance there, and just trying to track movement. As we progressed through the case in 2023, we saw that the booster activity was not just in Arizona, but also Southern Nevada. It had branched out to New Mexico. It had branched out to Southern California, and then ultimately had gone north up into Utah. So we were able to put this one booster group out of Las Vegas in all 5 of those states. Did a lot of surveillance, a lot of work. We would get word, we'd get store reporting out of it, a certain city and a state where we knew it was our folks, right? These are our bad guys. And there were nights where we wound up sitting on the side of the highway at 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting for these folks to drive back into Las Vegas, right? That never panned out. It was a great idea. We thought we were going to get lucky, and we all know that luck plays a part, but it really never panned out. So again, continue to share information, getting bolos out to the stores, making sure that everybody in the industry knows what we're looking at and looking for any related activity. Meanwhile, it was obvious to look for who's the fence, right? We always want these booster cases to lead us to the fence. And so we started scrubbing e-commerce in the Las Vegas area, looking at who was selling these types of supplies. And there were 3 or 4 guys that stood out pretty readily, right? That like, well, this could be our fence. But there was one, as you watched his activity around when he posted product, and then compared that to the product that we were seeing these boosters take, it became pretty obvious that this was going to be our fence. And lo and behold, he was residing right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and running multiple eBay accounts where they were selling diabetic test strips and other supplies. So,
can I interject
Go
real
ahead.
quick? So Ryan's being a little humble in that that I do want to share a little funny story on there. So when I came on board, Ryan briefed me on this case, and I was doing a lot of work on it as well. And we had set up on the house on who Ryan had thought the fence was. And we had done work for probably about a month on the case. And he calls me one day and we're talking, and he asked me, he goes, "Hey, how confident are you that this is the fence?" And I'm like, I'm maybe not. Like, I'm like, maybe 50-50. And he tells me he's 100% confident that this is the fence. And I'm looking at the eBay activity and I'm like, yeah, all right, he's confident, but I'm 50-50. So we end up, he's right. And we find that out a little bit, but yeah, it was funny how dead on he was with just the activity that he was witnessing on eBay, that it was the fence. So you can pick that up. I just thought it was kind of fun.
You're too nice, Rick. Yeah, ultimately I was right? We do get lucky, as I already stated, luck does play a role in what we do. But let's get into that part about law enforcement collaboration, right? So we talked about retail collaboration. Let's talk about law enforcement collaboration. One of the unique things here is we've got a brand new dedicated ORC task force working out of the Las Vegas Metro Police. And they have been fantastic to us. They're so good to us that the one place we did not have a theft related to this case was in Clark County, Nevada, or the city of Las Vegas. So they had no nexus to their agency. But we had briefed them on the case. They were fully aware of it. They knew that these boosters in the fence were living in their city. And so obviously they want to get out in front of that. One of our boosters was arrested on a warrant here in Las Vegas on an unrelated charge. And Las Vegas Metro was willing to go in and do a jailhouse interview, confront him with some of these thefts that we had briefed him about around the country, and go a little further and be able to get his cell phone data, right? And ultimately, that was when we got confirmation that, okay, we've got the boosters ID'd, we now have the fence ID'd, now we just need to put it all together. So working different cases out here, in the Southwest, these boosters are still traveling state to state. And long story short, ultimately, we knew they had been in New Mexico the week prior to the New Mexico ORCA conference. Ray, Jake, and myself were all planning on being at the New Mexico ORCA conference the following week. Figured we could do some follow-up. We met with some folks from Arizona while we were down there, constantly talking to all these law enforcement agencies. Lo and behold, day one of the conference towards the afternoon, get a tap on the shoulder from Tom at Walmart. And he's like, hey, you won't believe this, but one of my dapples, one of their district asset protection leaders, is on the highway on the 15 heading northbound out of Vegas, and he's behind the car. Right? So putting two and two together, knowing the area, we know they're heading to Utah. So Jake had a great idea. He's like, why don't we call Steve Jensen with the Utah AG's office and see if he can help? Steve's a great guy. If you don't know him, this was 3 o'clock in the afternoon his time. He absolutely was on board before he had a crime in the state of Arizona. He grabbed a vehicle tracker off of his desk and started heading southbound on the 15 out of Salt Lake City, calling law enforcement agencies throughout Utah, trying to locate this vehicle on the highway. Ultimately, Steve was able to locate the car as it came into southern Salt Lake when these boosters went into a CVS store to steal test strips. Steve was able to get the tracker on the car, and it was all downhill for the boosters from there, right? So with the tracker data, knowing when and where they were heading, we were able to coordinate again with Las Vegas Metro and devise a plan that when they come back into Las Vegas, they're going to have a carload of stolen product. In fact, we can tell you exactly what the product is, what stores it was stolen from, so on and so forth. So Metro, again, not having a direct nexus, but knowing they had criminals coming back into their town, they were on board. So Ray and I caught flights out of New Mexico, flew back to Las Vegas. Jake stayed in New Mexico in his hotel room and worked the tracker on the computer and kept us updated to movement. We got rental cars when we got into Vegas that night about 9:30, 10 o'clock and drove to Utah. It was quite a night after being in a conference all day. As we got north into Utah, Jake was able to let us know that it looked like our boosters had laid up and we're getting some sleep at a truck stop. So Ray and I decided to do the same thing about an hour south. And first time I think either one of us ever slept at a truck stop. I can tell you I don't recommend it if you can avoid it, but it worked out. So we got about an hour's sleep. Got word from Jake that the tracker was moving, and Ray and I were able to intercept the vehicle coming southbound on the 15 as it was heading back to Nevada. Started coordinating with Las Vegas Metro. They set up, once we crossed into Clark County, They had a threshold and a stop point. We were able to notify them what the vehicle was, exactly where it was, and they were able to do a vehicle stop where they recovered 2 trash bags full of diabetic test strips that had just been stolen out of Utah. And I can break there for a second, Jake, if you got anything to throw in.
Yeah, I would, to Ryan's point, being able to, I guess, going back that same week, we knew that they were in New Mexico. We were planning on going back for the New Mexico conference. We were actually at dinner. We'd done surveillance on another case in Las Vegas all day Monday, and went to dinner with Ross and Nancy from Vigilant surveillance training down on the Las Vegas Strip. During that time, we got a call that they were in Arizona, and we left that dinner, and I think it was 9 o'clock at night, and drove straight to the Hoover Dam area, just on the other side of the Arizona-Nevada border, and we're kind of binoing every car coming in that matched that description from the car that's hitting the stores in Arizona. So in 1 week, I think we were in 4 different states working this case between Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. So again, to Ryan's point that he made earlier, you really have to be available to go anytime you need to go to make sure you're closing these cases. Right.
The plan would have worked too. What we didn't know is after when they were driving back from Albuquerque, they hit stores in Flagstaff. So we were timing it so that we would be able to intercept them on the 95 or 93 coming into Vegas. What we did not know is that they were pulling over and sleeping at truck stops. That's what we learned a couple days later. So the plan didn't work, but the idea was there.
The truck stops threw us for a loop. We had searched hotel parking lots. We had basically speculated down every avenue on what their timing would be, and the truck stops definitely threw us for a loop, and that's where that tracker became so critical, and that cooperation out of Utah. So where we left off, ultimately Las Vegas Metro's ORC task force conducted a traffic stop on the suspects, the boosters coming back in, recovered the trash bags worth of product, and of course we head to headquarters to do some interviews and look through some cell phones. That was a treasure trove, right? So they were cooperative. They did identify the fence, which we had previously identified through, scrubbing e-commerce and through the other arrested booster's cell phone previously. And threw out some ridiculous numbers. So these girls basically were traveling all over the Western US, stealing diabetic test strips that sell anywhere from $40 to $120 a box, bringing them back to Las Vegas to a fence that was giving them $1 or $2 per box for those items. So it explained why the boosters were so busy, because they weren't getting a lot of money for it, right? So if they stole 500 boxes, they might walk away with $750 or $1,000 for their 3-day trip out of state. With all that being said, that's the booster side of this, right? We're able to ultimately, I think I identified 5 individuals that were involved in the boosting activity, and get that activity stopped. And that led us to enough probable cause where we were able to formulate a plan with Las Vegas Metro to then follow up and hit the fence. I believe it was the following week.
Yeah,
it was the following
3 days later.
3 years later.
We didn't have a lot of sleep during the last 2 weeks of this investigation. And as every fence search warrant that anyone has ever been involved with on this call, what you know is that you always expect to find one thing, and you walk in the door and you see something completely different. So if you look at the eBay activity for these individuals and what they're selling on eBay, you didn't expect to get a lot of product out of the house. It really looked like a pattern of they would re-up from their boosters, they would sell through everything, and they would be pretty empty. Since we had intercepted the boosters, we did not expect to get a lot of product in the house. We walked in and found a converted garage that was converted into an office/storage space that had $300,000 worth of diabetic supplies stashed in every corner of that space. Then you go into the house and you find the Ozempic, the other injectables, the insulin, all the things that these folks buy from folks on the street, and you wind up with a large dollar amount. Ultimately, 8,600 items were recovered during the search warrant, most of that being test strips and lancets that had been stolen from CVS, Walgreens, or Walmart. most of the booster activity that we identified was from this one group of boosters out of Las Vegas. And really where the surprise was, and this was the eye opener, right? Where you have to look deeper, is what we're seeing on these diabetic test strip cases is most of the product is getting shipped to diverters. And that there are a couple of organizations around the country that are operating under the guise of helping diabetics because of the price of these products, and they're buying directly from these larger scale eBay fences and folks that are dealing in this product. So that's our case in a nutshell. Like, you guys have something to add?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well.
Do you guys have any questions?
Well, Brian, it sounds like a big part of this was a diversion case, is that right?
Yeah, ultimately, that's where it's going to lead us, Jack. I can tell you that this was the second of 3 major diabetic test strip cases that we're going to close in a 12-month span. And what we've seen from the first 2 is a lot of connectivity of these folks shipping to the same people around the country that are operating on a much larger scale.
It sounds also like you guys had a tremendous amount of support from law enforcement, from the different retailers that were involved. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Jack. So again, partnerships, obviously Ryan hit on it earlier. The biggest thing that you can invest in going into 2024 and kind of beyond that is your partnerships. I think that we've worked previous cases or prior cases with all of these different law enforcement folks and retail folks. And that was really the icebreaker, the case breaker, is being able to stop what we were doing, whether it was at the New Mexico conference and stepping out and taking a phone call and calling a friend at the AG's office in Arizona or the AG's office in Utah, and kind of, you know, asking a favor. This, hey, they're coming towards you. Can you help me out? And obviously you work these cases and you build that relationship with these folks, and they trust you, right? I think that looking at it, you had everybody putting in something. Walmart is really good video, whereas obviously the CVS and Walgreens of the world, our videos sometimes not as clear. So really leveraging those pictures and being able to leverage the different tools that we have, behind the scenes with OSINT and feature matching technology and all that, really helped break this case, right?
I love hearing the story about the AG's office, and how did you guys really go about building that relationship where, you have somebody like that's willing to go above and beyond for you to put that together, working with you?
So Steve at the Utah AG's office, they've got a small task force working out of the AG's office in Utah. And he had reached out to Jake and I don't know, sometime early 2023. And he needed help with some surveillance in Utah. He was working a case. He had great intel. He had a suspect's ID'd, knew where they were. What he didn't have was a surveillance team that could go out and professionally conduct an investigation from a surveillance standpoint and gather that evidence to get him over the finish line. So he reached out to Jake and I, and, we didn't have a real big dog in the fight on that case. It wasn't, it wasn't touching Walgreens or CVS very closely, but he needed help. So what did we do? We dropped what we were doing. We hopped on a flight. We flew to Salt Lake City, and we spent a week helping him with his surveillance. That willingness and the way we operate out here in the streets and building these relationships, it is why we're able to make those phone calls. And, I touched on it. I honestly don't know a lot of law enforcement officers that have the time or the energy to leave their office at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday night and grab a tracker and just start driving south, heading for an unknown vehicle that they don't know where it's at. But because we were able to build that relationship with Steve, and it's a reciprocal type of relationship, he was more than willing. It was something we didn't have to ask him to do. And at that point, he did not have a crime in the state of Arizona that he could charge. He knew he was going to get one, but at that point, he was just in to help us get through our investigation. And it's because, again, when they need us, we're always there, Jack.
You know, Kevin, I wanted to stress that with you as well here. It seems like every time we do one of these cases, we hear that same story over and over again about the relationship building and how willing people are to work together, even when they don't have a big stake in the game. And really, I think it's a big part of what leads to these tremendous investigations and how they turn out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just come such a long way. You know, if you go back to the days when you and I were in retail, that the collaboration wasn't anywhere near where it is today. And you know, just to have you guys are here from CVS and you've got slides up here with Walgreens and Walmart's logos on them. You know, like you never used to see that type of stuff, and now everybody just works hand in hand, and it's so refreshing to see, and we're seeing the results pay off with these cases. So congratulations, guys. That was a fantastic case. Just awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, back when you and I were doing it, the DA would have had to ride down on a horse to
Yeah.
take care of that.
All right, now hold on. All right, well, if we have any questions in the Q&A for Jake and Ryan and Ray, anybody want to throw any questions in there? We can try to grab a quick question or two, and let's see here. And if not, if we don't get to them, then we'll like I said before, like we usually do, we'll collect the questions after, and we will get with these guys and get you some answers back. So I think we're good right now, though. So let's go ahead and move towards wrapping stuff up. So first of all, thank you to our sponsors again, to Alto and to Genetech. Thank you very much. Thank you to our speakers, Brian and Ryan and Ray and Jake. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for sharing with us. Thank you to the LPF. Don't forget about your 3 CEU credits for today's session. And once again, can't stress this enough. If you are from law enforcement and you want to get some scholarships for your department, or if you are from retail and you want to get some scholarships for departments that you work with, we have some great ORC training available. It's put together by a lot of very talented people across this industry that lent their subject matter expertise to this initiative, and it's a wonderful program that could help a lot of people. So please, and it's free, so take advantage of it while it is free, while we have those scholarships. Please reach out. I think I've seen 1 or 2 emails come in already. And again, send that to Kevin M at learnitmedia.com. Scan that QR code to get your free subscription to Loss Prevention Magazine. If you're not already subscribed, then subscribe today, because it is free. And last but not least, we want to wish you and your teams and your families a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very safe, happy, and healthy 2024. Jack, anything to add?
I just wanted to add here to kind of wind this up here, you know, especially considering some of the events that have happened over the last week or so. I think it's important for everybody out there to remember that we need to be smart, we need to be careful, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to be safe. Even when we do those things, things can still go wrong. I mean, there's situations that happen out there we can't see into the hearts of the people that we're dealing with every day. And we just really need to be careful going into the holidays to make sure that we're there for our families when it all comes to pass.
Well
Stay
said.
safe.
Well said. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you in 2024.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.